Greetings. My name is Dr. Jill Burgett, and I am Professor of Music and Director of Choral Activities at University of Northern Colorado. I would like to invite you to join us for the DuPage Symphony Orchestra's last concert of the season, Symphonic Song. What is symphonic song? The word symphony comes from the Greek symphonia, meaning agreement of sound, a genre of music generally characterized by its multi-movement structure with interwoven themes set for orchestra. A song, on the other hand, obviously depicts a short poem or set of words that are aligned with musical pitches. In the two pieces featured on this concert's program, a piece for voice and orchestra is focused through the symphonic lens, while a programmatic symphony is based on previously composed vocal material. So we see this relationship between music and text resounding deeply with these composers. The two composers that will be featured on this concert are the American 20th century composer Samuel Barber and the Austro-Germanic Romantic composer Gustav Mahler. Samuel Osmond Barber II was born in Westchester, Pennsylvania in 1910. From a very young age, Barber became profoundly interested in music, which came as no surprise. Not only was his mother a pianist, his maternal aunt was one of the Metropolitan Opera's leading contraltos, and his uncle was a composer of American art song. Barber began studying piano at age 6 and composed his first work by the age of 7. Although it was apparent that the young Barber was tremendously musically gifted, his parents wished for him to become an athlete instead and urged him to play football. Not long after, he wrote a letter to his mother sharing his true feelings on the subject and ultimately quit the sport. The very next year, he wrote his first operetta to a libretto written by the family's own cook. Barber's musical career quickly took off after becoming an organist at a local church, and he entered the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia at 14, where he would spend the next 10 years developing his talent in composition, voice, and piano. During his studies there, he would meet Giancarlo Menotti, whom would be his lifelong personal and professional partner. After graduating in 1934, he was awarded the Pulitzer Traveling Scholarship to pursue further studies in Vienna. He took his first 2 Prix de Rome scholarships and attended the American Academy in Rome from 1935 to 1937. In 1939, Barber traveled back to the Curtis Institute, where he taught composition until 1942. However, when the United States entered World War II, he joined the Army Air Corps and continued to serve until 1945. But his eagerness to continue composing never ceased while in the service. In fact, he was commissioned to write several works for the Boston Symphony Orchestra during this time, including his Concerto for Violoncello and Orchestra and his Second Symphony. During the same time, Barber and Menotti would purchase the famed Capricorn House, located north of Manhattan, in 1943, which served as their artistic retreat until 1972. Barber would continue composing an extraordinary amount of music until he was almost 70, and of course his Adagio for strings gained worldwide recognition as it was played for the funerals of JFK and FDR. His final composition and opera, Antony and Cleopatra, was commissioned by the Lincoln Center to commemorate the grand opening of the Metropolitan Opera House in 1966. It was unfortunately poorly received by critics, and this sent him into a long battle with depression, alcoholism, and isolation. As a result, tensions grew between Barber and Menotti, leading to the end of their partnership and the selling of Capricorn. Between 1978 and 1981, Barber was hospitalized frequently while undergoing treatment for cancer. On January 23rd of 81, he ultimately succumbed to the disease at the age of 70. However, his legacy has had a profound impact on contemporary composition, and his works are still beloved among audiences and performers around the world to this day. Over his lifetime, Barber was bestowed numerous awards and honors for his outstanding achievement, including 2 Pulitzer Prizes, Grammy Awards and nominations, the prestigious Henry Hadley Medal, and an honorary doctorate from Harvard. Barber was one of the most celebrated American composers of his time, with a remarkable catalog of a total of 179 pieces within 119 works across numerous genres. Described as neo-romantic in nature, Barber's style of composing incorporated modern 20th century elements and techniques, but was highly influenced by the Romantics, Beethoven, Chopin, and Brahms. Although his style did evolve over 3 distinct stages of his career, one can characterize his work as lyrical, rhythmically complex, and harmonically rich. Barber's early compositional stage leaned into the idea of emotional expression, influenced greatly by his Romantic predecessors. It was during this time that Barber composed largely within the vocal and choral genres, using semitonal techniques within a lyrical lens. Barber's second stage presents a shift in the gradual removal of traditional tones and traditional musicality to increased elements of modernism integrated throughout his compositions. Here, dissonance is frequently used as a decoration to increase the dramaticism within the piece. Although most of his compositions during this time would be focused on orchestral or instrumental works, he would also compose the magnificent work for voice and orchestra, Knoxville, summer of 1915 during this period, which will be performed on this concert's program. Barber's final mature stage includes anything composed after 1947 in which both vocal and instrumental genres would be explored. While his lyrical style is maintained, he begins to abandon his once conservative use of tonality, structure, and harmony, leading to a more relaxed, individualized, and somewhat incongruent style found in his later works. Knoxville, summer of 1915, was composed in 1947 with music set to excerpts from the 1938 prose poem of the same name by James Agee. The text is based on a series of tragic events Agee himself experienced at the age of 6, when his father was killed in a car accident. According to Agee, 1915 was the year in which his life began to evolve. In many ways, Barber's setting of Agee's text became reflective of his own life, as he himself was enduring his own father's deteriorating health during the time of the work's composition in 1947. The work itself depicts a dreamlike and nostalgic picture of a summer evening in Knoxville, Tennessee, narrated by a young boy overcome with flashes of the mature and introspective thinking of an adult. The orchestration for this work consists of a wide array of instruments and, most notably, solo voice. The work is set in one full movement. However, it broadly embodies the form of a rondo-like format. The piece begins with a short introduction, setting the tone of a quiet and tranquil evening before transitioning into the A section, a refrain that will be repeated throughout the work of a gentle rocking motif in 12/8 time. The peaceful evening is interrupted with a sudden burst of energy, including the ringing bell of a streetcar as it passes through, marking the B section. As the tolls begin to fade, a sense of calm is restored as the C section acts as a gentle transition back to the A section, returning rocking motif. The D section begins with music representing the child's family and the joy and peace felt as they are gathered together in their backyard. The voice is then introduced as a soft yet somewhat haunting prayer, asking for the blessing and protection of the family.
On the rough wet grass of the backyard, my father and mother have spread quilts. Where are they? My mother, my father, my uncle, my aunt. May God bless my people.
This is then followed by a return of the A section once more, as the child is quietly taken back into the house and lulled to sleep, left to contemplate his identity and awareness of self within the vastness of the world through our 12/8 rocking motion. Gustav Mahler was born in 1860 in Bohemia as the second of 14 children. The Mahler family came from a Jewish descent with humble origins, and this background would greatly influence his lifelong sense of exile. Mahler took to music from a very young age and soon became the town's wunderkind after giving his first public performance at the local theater at the age of 10. By age 15, he was accepted to the Vienna Conservatory, winning several prizes. During his final year there, Mahler decided to concentrate on composition and harmony, where he became heavily influenced by the musical styles of Anton Bruckner and Richard Wagner. He also gained his first conducting experience there at the conservatory. He graduated in 1878 and enrolled at the University of Vienna with an interest in literature and philosophy. However, he would only stay for 1 year. In June of 1880, Mahler took his first professional conducting post at a small theater in the town of Bad Hall, Austria, where he conducted 10 full-scale operas and operettas. Over the next 11 years, Mahler moved positions frequently across Europe. In total, he would occupy 7 posts at opera houses throughout the Czech Republic, Germany, and Hungary, and conduct over 800 performances. But from 1897 to 1907, he finally achieved his lifelong dream of becoming the director of the Vienna Hofoper. During his tenure, Mahler conducted a total of 88 productions, including the introduction of 33 new operas. In 1901, he met and married Alma Schindler and had two daughters, Maria Anna and Anna Justine. In 1907, both daughters contracted scarlet fever and diphtheria, in which Maria Anna did not survive. It was also during this period that Mahler learned of his own heart defect. The Mahler family moved from Vienna to New York City in December of 1907, where he made his Metropolitan Opera debut, conducting Wagner's Tristan und Isolde. During this time in New York, Mahler conducted 19 productions at the Met, 3 concerts with the New York Symphony, and accepted his last position as conductor of the New York Philharmonic. In December of 1910, Mahler began suffering from a sore throat that persisted through February of the following year, when he was scheduled to conduct at Carnegie Hall. He insisted on fulfilling the engagement, which would ultimately be his last concert. He was diagnosed with bacterial endocarditis. 2 months later, the family left for Paris, where Mahler would be admitted to a clinic in Paris, and then, following that, was transported by train to Vienna, where he slipped into a coma after developing pneumonia. He died 1 week later on May 18, 1911, and was buried next to his daughter, Maria Anna. Mahler's legacy had a profound impact on 20th century compositional technique, bridging the gap between 19th century Austro-Germanic tradition and newly adopted modernism. His work would greatly influence the styles of many contemporary composers. Over his lifetime, Mahler composed a total of 64 works, which included 16 orchestral works, 5 staged works, 4 chamber pieces, 1 piano suite, and 38 pieces for voice and piano or orchestra. Mahler's unique style is an alchemic embodiment fueled by philosophy, his own heritage, and both contemporary and romantic compositional techniques. Mahler's signature features include the use of progressive tonality, extremes in dynamics, offstage ensembles, unconventional combinations of orchestral forces, and nods to popular music and dance forms, as well as the incorporation of traditional Jewish tunes and rhythms. It has been said that Mahler never tired of experimenting with orchestral colors and techniques, using traditional instruments but in unusual combinations, bringing out qualities in the instruments previously unimaginable. Mahler, like Barber, had 3 distinct style periods throughout his career as a composer. The first one spanning from 1880 to the end of the Wunderhorn works in 1901, a middle period between 1901 and 1907, and then the third period, which included his last 3 works. During this final period, Mahler sought to compose expressions of his personal experience as he faced his own mortality with declining health. Mahler composed 9 symphonies. These works are composed on a massive scale with regard to musical forces, forms, and traditions, stretching the capabilities of symphonic music. In the words of the composer, a symphony must be like the world. It must embrace everything. Composed while serving as conductor in Leipzig, Mahler's monumental Symphony No. 1 is often referred to as the Titan Symphony, depicting a strong, heroic man, his life and his sufferings, his battles, and his defeat at the hands of fate. Originally scored in 5 movements, it was later revised to 4 over a 7-year period after the premiere of the work in 1889 was not initially well received. The orchestration for this work is quite impressive, comprised of a full orchestra with numerous instruments to a part, including woodwinds, a heavy brass section, percussion, and strings. The structure of Symphony No. 1 is arranged within 4 movements. Throughout the work, we hear how he incorporates traditional structures and techniques mixed with fragments of his own heritage, as well as the occasional integration of material from his own Lieder eines fremden Gesellen song cycle. The first movement demonstrates a modified sonata form structure. Within the exposition, the first theme we hear comes from a descending fourth motif that imitates the sound of a cuckoo, first starting in the clarinets and then moving to the flute and calling back and forth to one another. It is then picked up by the cello and is passed throughout the entire orchestra with added material from his own second song of the Lieder cycle. This is followed soon after by the second theme, picked up by the entire orchestra. As we move into the development phase, the sound of the cuckoo motif brings us into a new theme, a fanfare in the French horns. The second movement of the symphony is a modified minuet and trio, with the minuet being replaced by the 3/4 dance form, the Ländler, an Austrian waltz that was the precursor to the Viennese waltz. In contrast, the second part of the movement, or the trio, contains more lyrical material, with nods to the Ländler interjected throughout. The third movement outlines a slower funeral march within an ABA format. Throughout the A section, one prominent theme is presented based on the popular round Frere Jacques, however translated to D minor. As the mood suddenly changes, a second theme emerges, paying homage to Mahler's own heritage by imitating the sound of a traditional Jewish klezmer band. A lighter and more lyrical B section then appears, taken from, once again, Mahler's Lieder cycle. The final and fourth movement bookends the first movement in a sonata form. However, it incorporates a longer and more expansive development, yet a shorter recapitulation. Fragments of Movement 1's first theme can be heard in this exposition, but now with a new flair. This is followed by a contrasting lyrical second theme in the violins. Excitement builds to an abrupt modulation back to D major as the strings and timpani play a victorious galloping gesture and the brass sounds a new triumphant version of the opening introductory material. On behalf of the DuPage Symphony Orchestra, we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming concert, Symphonic Song.